Now let us talk about human health and disease. In the past, people relied on reflective thought rather than experiments. Ancient Greeks like Hippocrates and the Indian Ayurveda system believed health was a balance of humors. For example, they thought people with black bile had hot personalities and were prone to fevers. Basically, they thought body is made up of some fluids called humors. This good humor hypothesis was eventually debunked by two major breakthroughs. One is by William Harvey, who discovered blood circulation using the experimental method. Second is by the invention of thermometer, which proved that people with black bile actually had perfectly normal body temperatures. Modern biology shows that health is not just about the body, it is a loop involving three main systems. One, the mind, that is your mental state. Two, the neural and endocrine systems, that is how your brain and hormones communicate. Three, the immune system. This system keeps you healthy, but it is directly influenced by our mind. Key takeaway is our mental state can physically affect our health. What actually affects our health? Our health is generally influenced by three main factors. First is genetic disorders. It is defects or deficiencies we inherit from our parents at birth. Second is infections. These are illnesses caused by outside germs. Third is lifestyle. This is the part we control, that is, what we eat, how much we rest, and our exercise habits and our daily routines. How we define health. Many people think health is just not being sick, but it is much broader than that. Health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well being. Healthy people are more efficient, which leads to economic prosperity. Good health also means people live longer and reduces death rates for mothers and infants. How to maintain and achieve good health? To stay healthy, we need a mix of personal habits and public awareness. Personal habits include a balanced diet, personal hygiene, and regular exercise. Yoga is highlighted as a time tested way to boost both physical and mental health. Public safety include vaccination, that is, immunization, proper waste disposal, controlling vectors like mosquitoes that spread disease, and keeping food and water clean. We say we have a disease when our organs or body systems stop functioning correctly, resulting in visible signs and symptoms. Diseases fall into two categories: infectious and non infectious. Infectious diseases easily spread from person to person. Examples are common cold and even fatal disease like AIDS. Non-infectious diseases does not spread through contact. Example is cancer, which is a leading cause of death. Habits like drug and alcohol abuse also play a major role in damaging health. In summary, health is a holistic balance of body and mind. It is maintained through a combination of good genetics, a clean environment, and a conscious lifestyle choices like diet, exercise, and avoiding substance abuse. Now, let us see common diseases in humans. What are pathogens? Not all tiny organisms are friendly. Some cause trouble. Many different organisms like bacteria, viruses, fungi, and worms can cause diseases in humans. We call these pathogens. Most parasites are pathogens because they live on or inside us and cause harm. These pathogens enter our bodies, multiply, and mess with our normal body functions, which leads to the physical damage. Even to survive inside us, pathogens have to adapt. For example, a germ entering your stomach must be tough enough to survive harsh stomach acid and digestive enzymes. Now let us see about some bacterial diseases. Example, typhoid fever. It is caused by a bacterium called Salmonella typhi. It enters body through contaminated food or water. It moves to the small intestine and then travels through the blood. When it is inside the blood, it produces symptoms like high fever, about 39 to 40 degrees Celsius. It causes weakness, stomach pain, headache, and loss of appetite. In bad cases, it can cause holes in the intestine, that is, perforation in the intestine, and even lead to death. It is confirmed by using a medical test called the Vidal test. A famous cook named Typhoid Mary was a carrier who spread the disease to many people through the food she cooked, even though she did not feel sick herself. Next bacterial disease is pneumonia. It is caused by a bacteria Streptococcus pneumoniae. It attacks the alveoli, which are the tiny air sacs in our lungs. Alveoli are filled with fluid, making it very hard to breathe. Symptoms are fever, chills, cough, and headache. In severe cases, due to the lack of oxygen, a person's lips and fingernails might turn gray or blue. It spreads by inhaling droplets from an infected person's sneeze or cough, or even sharing a glass. Now, let us see about some viral diseases. Example, common cold. It is caused by a group of viruses called rhinoviruses. They infect the nose and throat, but not the lungs. This is how it differs from pneumonia. Symptoms are stuffy nose, sore throat, hoarseness, cough, and tiredness. It usually lasts for 3 to 7 days. It is highly contagious. You can catch it through the air or by touching objects like doorknobs or keyboards that already an infected person touched. Now let us see about protozoan diseases. Example, malaria. It is caused by a tiny protozoan called Plasmodium. The most dangerous version is Plasmodium falciparum. If you see life cycle of Plasmodium, a female Anopheles mosquito bites you and injects the parasite. The parasite goes to your liver to multiply. Then from there, it attacks your red blood cells. When the red blood cells burst, they release a toxin called hemozoin, which causes the signature chills and high fever seen in malaria. Here, the mosquito is the taxi or the vector that carries the disease between the human beings. Next protozoan disease is Amoebiasis or amoebic dysentery. It is caused by Entamoeba histolytica, which lives in the large intestine. Symptoms are stomach cramps, constipation, and stools with mucus or blood. It is transmitted by houseflies. which carry the germs from waste to our food. Drinking dirty water is the main culprit. Now let us see about two worm diseases caused by helminths. One is Ascariasis and second is Elephantiasis. Ascariasis. It is caused by the common roundworm. It lives in the intestine and can cause internal bleeding, anemia, and even block the intestine entirely. It spreads through soil or water contaminated with its eggs. Elephantiasis, also called filariasis. It is caused by the filarial worm. It causes massive swelling, usually in the legs or genital organs, by living in the lymphatic vessels for years. It is spread by mosquito bites. Next is fungal disease. Example is ringworm. It is caused by fungi like microsporum. Symptoms are dry, scaly, itchy sores on the skin, nails, or scalp. These fungi love heat and moisture, so they grow best in skin folds, like between the toes. You get it from soil or sharing towels and combs with the infected person. Now we have seen different types of diseases caused by different types of infectious agents. How can we prevent diseases? First, by maintaining personal hygiene, by keeping our body clean, drinking clean water, and eating fresh food, and also by maintaining public hygiene by disposing waste properly and keep water tanks or pools clean. Second, by vector control or stopping mosquitoes. How can we do this? Don't let water stagnate because mosquitoes breed on stagnant water. Use mosquito nets and window screens. Other method is when Gambusia fish is introduced into ponds. They eat mosquito larvae. By that, they reduce mosquitoes. Third, by science and medicine. Like vaccines. We have used vaccines to completely wipe out smallpox and control diseases like polio and tetanus. And antibiotics. These drugs allow us to treat and cure bacterial infections effectively. Now let us discuss about important topic immunity. Why don't we get sick every day? Every single day we are surrounded by millions of germs like bacteria, viruses and fungi. However, we only get sick once in a while. This is because of immunity, which is our body's ability to fight off disease causing organisms. Now we will see about innate immunity. Think of this as your body's factory installed security system. It is non specific, that is, it treats all intruders the same way and it is present from the day you are born. Our innate immunity works through four specific types of barriers. You can think of these as the walls, the chemicals, the security guards, and the alarm signals of a building. Walls represents physical barriers. The first goal is to simply keep the germs out. The skin is our primary shield. It is a tough outer layer that most microbes cannot penetrate. And mucus coatings. Inside our body, in our nose, lungs, and stomach lining, we have a sticky layer of mucus. This traps germs before they can go deeper into our systems. Next, the chemicals in the building represents physiological barriers. If a germ gets past the physical wall, it meets a hostile chemical environment, like stomach acid. Most germs we swallow are instantly destroyed by the high acidity in our stomach. Saliva and tears contain special enzymes that kill bacteria on contact, protecting our mouth and eyes. The security guards in building represents cellular barriers. If a microbe actually makes it into our blood or tissues, our white blood cells take over. Specific cells like neutrophils and macrophages act like Pac-Man. They find the foreign germ, swallow it as a whole, and digest it. They are called phagocytes. So, neutrophils and macrophages are phagocytes. We also have a natural killer cells. They are specialized lymphocytes in the blood that detect and destroy infected or abnormal cells. Now, the alarm system of the building represents cytokine barriers. This is a clever chemical signaling system used specifically against viruses. When a cell gets infected by a virus, it knows it is in trouble. Before it dies, it secretes proteins called interferons. These proteins act as an early warning signal to neighboring healthy cells, helping them build up resistance so the virus cannot spread further. In summary, innate immunity is our immediate general defense. It does not need to learn how to fight a specific germ. It just uses its physical walls, chemical barriers, cells, and routine alarms to keep us safe. And it is present from birth. Now let us see about acquired immunity. Unlike the general defenses you are born with, acquired immunity is pathogen specific. It does not just attack anything, it identifies the specific phase of a germ. Its most important feature is memory. When your body meets a new germ for the first time, its response is a bit slow and hesitant. This is a low intensity response. This is called primary response. You might get sick while the body figures out how to fight back. If that same germ dares to show up again, your body recognizes it instantly. This response is highly intensified and fast because your immune system remembers the first encounter. It is called secondary response or anamnestic response. To carry out these attacks, your blood uses two special types of WBC cells or white blood cells called lymphocytes. One kind is B lymphocytes or B cells. Think of these as the arms manufacturers. They produce an army of proteins called antibodies that flood your blood to fight pathogens. Other kind is T lymphocytes, also called T cells. These are the commanders. They do not usually make antibodies themselves, but they are essential because they tell the B cells when and how to produce antibodies. An antibody is a specialized protein shaped like a Y. Scientifically, we represent it as a H2L2. This is because every antibody has a two long chains or heavy chains and two short chains or light chains. There are different models of antibodies for different jobs, such as IgA, IgM, IgE, and IgG. Our immune system has two main strategies for defense. First is by humoral immune response. Since antibodies are found circulating in our blood, and blood is one of the body's humors. This is called the humoral or antibody mediated response. Second is cell mediated immunity. This is handled directly by the T lymphocytes. Instead of just sending out proteins like antibodies, the cells themselves get involved in the fight. This brings us to a major medical challenge: organ transplants. When a person needs a new kidney or liver, they can't just take from anyone. If the tissue is not a near perfect match, the body's immune system identifies the new organ as a non self or a foreign invader. This results in rejection. It is the cell mediated immunity that is responsible for graft rejection. It sees the new organ as an enemy and attacks it. This is why doctors perform intense tissue matching and blood group matching before surgery. Even then, transplant patients usually have to take drugs to suppress their immune system for the rest of their life to keep the smart cells from attacking the life saving organ. In short, acquired immunity is your body's internal database. It uses B cells to fire antibody missiles and T cells to manage the battlefield. While this keeps you safe from viruses, it is also the reason the body is so picky about organ transplant. It is just too good at spotting a stranger. Now, let us move to the active and passive immunity. Imagine your body is a peaceful kingdom. To stay safe from invaders like germs or viruses, the kingdom needs a defense system. In biology, we call this immunity. There are two main ways our kingdom gets its protection. One is by active and other is by passive. Let us see about active immunity. Think of active immunity as your body's own training program. How it works? Your body is exposed to an antigen, which is a weak or dead version of a germ. Instead of just sitting there, your body rolls up its sleeves and learns how to manufacture its own antibodies to fight back. But it is slow because your body is learning from scratch. It takes time to build a full strength army. There are two ways to get it. One is by natural. You get sick and your body learns to fight it off. Second is by artificial. That is, you get a vaccine. Once your body learns the secret recipe for these antibodies, it remembers it for a long time. Now, the other thing is passive immunity. Passive immunity is like hiring a professional army instead of training your own. How it works? Your body doesn't do any work. Instead, you are directly given ready made antibodies from an outside source. It is instant. You don't have to wait days or weeks. The protection is there the moment the antibodies enter your system. But it is temporary. Since your body did not learn how to make them, the protection eventually fades away. Let us see some special examples of passive immunity. Nature has beautiful ways of giving starter kits to babies who have not built their own defenses yet. One is through colostrum. Right after a baby is born, the mother produces a yellowish fluid called colostrum. It is packed with IgA antibodies. It's like a shield for the infant's gut and lungs. Second is the placenta. Even before birth, a fetus receives antibodies directly from the mother through the placenta. Now let us discuss about vaccination and immunization. The entire foundation of vaccination is based on one incredible trait of our immune system, which is memory. How vaccines work? When we vaccinate someone, we are not giving them the full blown disease. Instead, we introduce a vaccine which is a mock up of the germ. This could be just the outer proteins of the germ, that is, antigens, or a weakened version of the germ, or a killed or inactivated version of the germ. The body sees these harmless pieces and thinks it's under attack. The body starts producing antibodies to fight these specific pieces. Most importantly, the body creates memory B cells and T cells. These cells stay in your system for years. If the real deadly pathogen ever enters your body, these memory cells wake up, recognize it immediately, and flood the system with antibodies to wipe it out. If you see about the passive immunization, sometimes we don't have time to wait for the body to make its own antibodies. If someone is exposed to something deadly like tetanus or snake bite, they need help right now. In these cases, we use passive immunization. Instead of vaccine that teaches the body to make antibodies, we skip the middleman and inject preformed antibodies, often called antitoxins, directly into the patient. This provides instant protection, though it does not create long-term memory like a vaccine does. Finally, how do we make enough vaccines for millions of people? We use recombinant DNA technology. Scientists can take the blueprints or DNA for a germ's protein and put them into bacteria or yeast. These tiny organisms then act like factories churning out massive amounts of the germ's protein. This allows us to create vaccines on a huge scale. A good example of this is the hepatitis B vaccine, which is actually grown using yeast. Next is about allergy. What is an allergy? Imagine your immune system is a security guard. Normally, it only attacks dangerous intruders like viruses or bacteria. An allergy is when that security guard becomes hypersensitive and starts attacking harmless things like dust or flower pollen. Allergy is the exaggerated or extra response of your immune system. Allergen is the specific substance that triggers the reaction. Example, dust mites, pollen, animal fur, or dander. When an allergen enters your body system, your body produces a specific type of antibody called IgE. These antibodies signal special cells called mast cells to jump into action. Mast cells release chemicals called histamine and serotonin. These chemicals cause the physical symptoms we recognize as an allergic reaction. Common symptoms include uncontrollable sneezing, watery eyes and a runny nose, difficulty breathing or wheezing. How do doctors figure out what's bothering you? They perform a controlled test by injecting or exposing the patient to tiny doses of potential allergens to see which one causes a reaction. To stop the symptoms, doctors use medications that calm down the immune response. The medications include antihistamines to block the histamine, adrenaline and steroids to quickly reduce inflammation and open up airways. Interestingly, allergies are becoming more common, especially in large cities. Many experts believe this is due to our modern lifestyle. One is the hygiene hypothesis. We live in such protected and sterile environments early in life, that is during childhood, that our immune systems don't learn how to handle common particles. Because the immune system did not work out enough when we were kids, it becomes oversensitive as we grow up, leading to higher rates of asthma and allergies in the urban areas. If you find yourself sneezing in a new place but feeling fine the moment you leave that place, you are not sick in the traditional sense. Your immune system is simply overreacting to its new surroundings. Now, next we will talk about autoimmunity. In higher vertebrates like humans, the immune system has a remarkable memory. Once it fights off a germ, it remembers it. The foundation of this system is the ability to tell the difference between self, that is, your own healthy cells, and non self, that is, foreign invaders like bacteria and viruses. To understand how this works, we look at two main principles. Your body does not just recognize whole germs, it can identify tiny foreign molecules. This is what scientists spend most of their time studying, how the body tags something as an outsider to be destroyed. Sometimes the system glitches. Due to genetics or other mysterious reasons, the body loses the ability to tell self from non self. It begins to attack its own healthy tissues. When the body attacks itself, it causes internal damage. This is called autoimmune disease. A common example is rheumatoid arthritis. In this condition, the immune system attacks the joints, leading to inflammation and pain. It is not caused by an outside infection, but by the body's own defense system acting against its own self cells. Now let us see about the immune system of a body. Let us think of our immune system as a highly intelligent security force. It is not just a set of organs, it is a coordinated system of cells and molecules like antibodies with three unique abilities. First, it can tell the difference between you and a foreign invader. Second, it takes action to eliminate the threat. Third, it remembers the invader so that if it ever returns, the body can kick it out before you even feel sick. Now, let us see how this system works. Before soldiers can go to war, they need to be born and trained. This happens in the primary lymphoid organs. This is where WBC or white blood cells are created and learn how to recognize enemies. Which white blood cells? Lymphocytes. One of the primary lymphoid organ is bone marrow. This is the main factory. All blood cells, including our immune cells, are produced here. The other is the thymus. Think of this as a specialized academy located just below your breastbone. It is primarily for T lymphocyte. Interesting fact is the thymus is large when you are a baby, but it actually shrinks as you get older. By the time you hit puberty, it is quite small. Once the immune cells are trained, they move to the secondary lymphoid organs. These are the checkpoints where the cells actually meet the germs and start the fight. The spleen, a bean shaped organ that acts as a blood filter. It traps germs traveling in the blood and also stores a backup supply of red blood cells. Next, lymph nodes. These are small solid lumps found all along your lymph pipes, that is, lymphatic system. They act like traps. When germs get into your tissue fluids, they get caught in these nodes, which triggers the immune cells sitting inside to start attacking. Other locations like Peyer's patches or tonsils. Peyer's patches or tonsils acts as an outpost, and not all of your immune system is in dedicated organs. We have a massive amount of security tissue lining the areas where the outside world meets the inside world, like your lungs, stomach, and urinary tract. This is called mucosa associated lymphoid tissue. Because these areas are so vulnerable to germs from the air and food, 50% of your entire immune tissue is located right here in these linings. Now let us discuss about next topic, AIDS. Let us start with this name itself. AIDS stands for Acquired Immunodeficiency Syndrome. Acquired means it is not something you are born with. You get it during your lifetime. Immunodeficiency, it means your immune system, your body's internal army, stops working properly. Syndrome, this is not just one disease, it is a collection of many symptoms and infections. The culprit behind AIDS is HIV, that is, human immunodeficiency virus. HIV belongs to a special group of viruses called retroviruses. Think of a retrovirus like a hacker. It has an outer envelope and carries its genetic code as a RNA. Once it gets inside your cells, it uses an enzyme called reverse transcriptase to turn its RNA into DNA, effectively rewriting your cell's instructions to start making more viruses. How does it spread? It is a myth that you can catch HIV from a hug or a handshake. No, it only spreads through body fluids. The four main ways are: 1. Unprotected sexual contact with an infected person. Second, contaminated blood, like, like transfusions or blood products. Third, sharing needles, which is common among intravenous drug users. Fourth, mother to child through the placenta during pregnancy. How does HIV attacks? Once the virus enters the body, it targets two main players in your immune system: macrophages and helper T lymphocytes. The virus enters macrophages first. It turns the macrophage into an HIV factory, churning out new virus particles without killing the cell immediately. Simultaneously, the virus attacks helper T cells. It multiplies inside them and then bursts out, destroying the T cell in the process. Over time, that is, usually after 5 to 10 years, the number of T cells drops significantly, resulting in weakening of your immune system. When the immune system is weak, opportunistic infections take over. These are germs that a healthy body would easily fight off, such as bacteria like Mycobacterium tuberculosis, fungi and parasites like Toxoplasma. Common symptoms include persistent fever, diarrhea, and weight loss. How do we test for it? The most common test is called ELISA, which is enzyme linked immunosorbent assay. While modern medicine has antiretroviral drugs, they are not a cure. They can only prolong a patient's life. Since there is no cure, prevention is the only cure. In India, organizations like NACO and various NGOs work to educate the public. Steps for prevention are ensuring blood banks screen all blood, using only disposable needles and syringes, advocating for safe sex and free condom distribution, regular checkups for high risk groups. HIV or AIDS is a medical condition, not a moral judgment. People living with HIV need our sympathy and support, not isolation. Shunning patients only forces the disease underground, making it harder to track and treat. We can only tackle this by working together as a society and medical community. Now let us discuss about cancer. What is cancer? In a healthy body, cell growth is like a well-regulated traffic system. Cells grow, divide, and die in a very orderly way. However, cancer happens when this system breaks down. Normal cells have a property called contact inhibition. Think of it like a polite person in a crowded room. Once they bump into someone else, they stop moving or growing. Cancer cells lose this politeness. They ignore the space of others and just keep dividing, piling up to form masses called tumors. Not all tumors are the same. We generally categorize them into two groups. First is benign tumors. These are the stationary ones. They stay in one place, do not spread to other parts of the body, and usually cause very little damage. Second is malignant tumors. These are the dangerous ones. They grow rapidly, invade nearby healthy tissues, and steal nutrients from healthy cells. Malignant cells can break off, travel through the bloodstream, and start new tumors in distant organs. This spreading is called metastasis, and it is why malignant cancer is so hard to treat. What causes cancer? Anything that transforms a normal cell into a cancerous one is called a carcinogen. We can group these triggerers into three categories. 1. Physical agents. This includes ionizing radiation like X rays or gamma rays, and non ionizing radiation like UV rays from the sun, which damage our DNA. Second, chemical agents. The most common example is tobacco smoke, which is a leading cause of lung cancer. Third is biological agents. Some viruses, called oncogenic viruses, carry cancer genes. Interestingly, we actually have silent cancer genes in our own bodies called proto-oncogenes. They are usually harmless, but if they get switched on by a trigger, they can turn a cell cancerous. How do we find it? Early detection is the key to survival. Doctors use several investigative tools. One is biopsy. This is the gold standard. A small piece of suspected tissue is removed and examined under a microscope by a pathologist. Second is blood tests. especially for blood cancers like leukemia, where doctors look for an abnormal increase in WBC cells. Next is imaging. X-rays and CT scan give us a 3D look inside the body. MRI is even more advanced. It uses magnetic fields to see fine changes in living tissue without using harmful radiation. Next is molecular biology. We can now test for specific genes that people inherit, which might make them more likely to get cancer. This allows for early prevention. Treating cancer usually requires a multi tool approach because the disease is so stubborn. First is by surgery. Here, the tumor mass is physically removed. Second is by radiotherapy. Using lethal doses of radiation to kill the cancer cells while trying to save the healthy tissue around them. Third is chemotherapy. Using powerful drugs to kill dividing cells. Because these drugs hit all fast growing cells, they often cause side effects like hair loss or anemia. Fourth is immunotherapy. Cancer cells are sneaky and often hide from our immune system. Doctors give patients substances like alpha interferon, which acts like an alarm system, waking up the immune system so it can find and destroy the tumor. Next, we will discuss a topic of growing concern: the rise of drug and alcohol abuse, particularly among young people. Education is not just about fact, it is about safeguarding your future. When we understand how these substances hijack the body, we are better equipped to make healthy choices. Most drugs of abuse come from flowering plants or fungi. Let us break them down into three main categories: opioids, cannabinoids, and coca alkaloids. Opioids, they are downers. Opioids are chemicals that bind to specific receptors in your central nervous system and our digestive tract. The main culprit is heroin, often called smack. Chemically, it is diacetylmorphine. It is a white, bitter, odorless powder. It is made from morphine, which comes from the latex of the poppy plant. Poppy plant is called Papaver somniferum. Heroin is a depressant. It slows down body functions and is usually taken by snorting or injection. Next is cannabinoids. They are mind and heart alerters. These chemicals interact with receptors located primarily in the brain. They come from the cannabis sativa plant. Depending on which part of the plant is used, whether flowers, leaves, or resin, different products are made, such as marijuana, hashish, charas, and ganja. While they affect the brain, they are most famous for their impact on the cardiovascular system, that is, the heart and blood vessels. Interestingly, these are sometimes used illegally by sports persons to alter performance. Third is coca alkaloids. They are stimulants, commonly known as cocaine, coke, or crack. This drug comes from the South American coca plant, Erythroxylum coca. It interferes with the dopamine, the chemical in your brain responsible for feeling rewarded or happy. It is a powerful stimulant. It creates a temporary sense of euphoria and high energy. In high doses, it causes hallucinations, meaning You see or hear things that are not there. Other plants like Atropa belladonna and Datura also cause these dangerous trips. Not all abused drugs come from the street. Some are legitimate medicines used to treat depression or insomnia, such as barbiturates and benzodiazepines. Even morphine, which is a life saving painkiller for surgery patients, is dangerous when used outside of a doctor's care. Drug abuse occurs the moment a substance is used for a non medicinal purpose or in any way that impairs your physical and mental health. Smoking is often the first step toward harder drugs. Tobacco contains nicotine, a powerful alkaloid. Nicotine triggers the adrenal glands to release adrenaline. This raises your blood pressure and heart rate instantly. Smoking increases carbon monoxide in your blood. This kicks out the oxygen that your blood is supposed to carry, leading to an oxygen deficiency in your body. It is directly linked to cancers like lung, throat, and bladder cancers, and bronchitis and heart disease. Chewing tobacco is just as dangerous, leading specifically to oral cancer. Despite the warnings on every pack of cigarettes, addiction is a powerful force. Because these substances are both physically and psychologically addictive, just quitting can be incredibly difficult. If you or someone you know is struggling, don't rely on willpower alone. Counseling and medical help are essential to breaking the cycle and returning to a healthy lifestyle. Now let us discuss about a critical stage of life, adolescence. Think of adolescence not just a number on a birthday card, but as both a period of time and a process of growing up. It usually happens between the ages of 12 and 18. The best way to visualize this is as a bridge. On one side, you have a childhood, on the other, you have a adulthood. Adolescence is the walk across that bridge. It is the time when a person develops the attitudes, beliefs, and maturity needed to take their place in society. Why is this time so sensitive? Because this is a bridge between two very different stages of life. It is a period of massive change. There, biological changes occur where the body is physically transforming. And also, behavioral changes occur where the way a person thinks and acts begins to shift. Because so much is changing at once, adolescence is a very vulnerable phase. A person's mental and psychological state is still under construction, which makes them more sensitive to the environment around them. Why do youngsters turn to drugs or alcohol? If this is a time of growth, why do some choose a path of substance abuse? It usually starts with very human emotions. One, due to curiosity and adventure. Young people are naturally curious. They want to experiment, seek excitement, and try new things. Two, the escape factor. While the first try might be out of curiosity, it often changes. If a child feels they get a benefit, like feeling relaxed or forgetting a problem, they may start using drugs or alcohol to escape reality rather than facing their problems. 3. Academic stress. In today's world, the pressure to get perfect grades and excel in exams is a huge burden. Many youngsters try substances just to cope with this intense stress. Fourth is the cool factor. There is a common perception that smoking or drinking is progressive or cool. This idea is often pushed by movies and television, social media and the internet, and newspapers. Finally, we have to look at the world around the individual. Two major factors often lead to substance abuse. One is peer pressure. The need to fit in with a group can push a teenager to do things they would not normally do. It is called peer pressure. If a home life is unsupportive or unstable, a child may look for comfort or a sense of belonging in the wrong places. To summarize, adolescence is a beautiful but fragile transition. It is a time of discovery, but because of high stress and desire to be cool, it is also a time when many are at risk. Understanding these causes, curiosity, stress, and social pressure, is the first step in helping young people cross that bridge safely into adult. Now let us see about addiction and dependence. Addiction is not just a bad habit, it is a psychological attachment. People do not usually get hooked because they want to destroy their lives. They get hooked because they are chasing a feeling. This could be euphoria, which is a intense high, or a temporary sense of well-being. The danger is that this good feeling drives a person to use this substance even when they don't need it and even when it starts causing them harm. How does a casual user become a regular abuser? The answer lies in our receptors. Our body has specific receptors that catch the drug. With repeated use, these receptors get bored or desensitized. Their tolerance level increases. Because the receptors are less sensitive, the same small dose no longer produces that high. The user then takes a higher dose to get the same effect. This creates a loop. Higher doses lead to higher tolerance, which leads to even higher doses. There is a thin line between addiction, that is, the mental craving, and dependence, that is, the physical need. Dependence is when your body has adjusted so much to the drug that it can no longer function normally without it. If a dependent person suddenly stops taking this substance, the body goes into a state of protest called withdrawal syndrome. When the supply is cut off, the body reacts with unpleasant and sometimes dangerous symptoms. Mild to moderate symptoms are anxiety, shakiness, nausea, and heavy sweating. In some cases, these symptoms can be life threatening, requiring professional medical supervision. Often, the person goes back to the drug not to feel high, but simply to make these painful withdrawal symptoms go away. Dependence does not just affect the body, it affects a person's entire life. A dependent person may begin to ignore all social norms or moral boundaries. The desperate need to fund the habit often leads to major social and personal problems, as the need to satiate the craving outweighs everything else, that is, family, work, and law. This results in financial strain. Let us see effects of drug or alcohol abuse. When someone begins abusing drugs or alcohol, the first changes are often behavioral. These are the red flags that appear almost immediately. They show behavioral shifts by increased recklessness, uncharacteristic violence, or vandalism. High doses can lead to critical emergencies like heart failure, respiratory failure, or cerebral hemorrhages. Combining different drugs or mixing drugs with alcohol significantly increases the risk of a fatal overdose. For students and young adults, the warning signs often show up in their daily routines and personalities. A sudden drop in grades, skipping school, or losing interest in long time hobbies. Withdrawal from friends, depression, unexplained fatigue, or becoming aggressive and rebellious. They neglect personal hygiene and noticeable changes in sleeping or eating patterns are seen, including sudden weight fluctuations. Abuse does not just affect the individual, it ripples outward to the community and family. If an addict cannot afford their habit, they may resort to stealing. The person's struggle often causes deep mental exhaustion and financial ruin for their loved ones. Those who use intravenous drugs, injections, face a high risk of HIV or AIDS and hepatitis B. These are chronic, life threatening viruses spread through sharing infected needles or syringes and unprotected sexual contact. Chronic use acts like a slow poison on the body's internal system. Long term alcohol use leads to liver cirrhosis, where healthy liver tissue is replaced by a scar tissue. Some drugs causes permanent damage to the brain function and coordination. Substance use during pregnancy can cause irreversible damage to the developing fetus. Some athletes misuse steroids or hormones to get gain muscle and aggression. However, the masculinizing and feminizing side effects are severe. If you see the effects on female, there is a deepening of the voice, excessive facial or body hair, abnormal menstrual cycles, and increased aggressiveness. If you see the effect on males, there is a breast enlargement, shrinking of testicles, reduced sperm production, and premature baldness. Both genders may experience severe acne and stunted growth, as steroids can cause the growth centers of the bone to close prematurely. The core takeaway is that drug and alcohol abuse is a full body and full life crisis. It attacks the brain, it attacks the organs, the bank account, and the family unit simultaneously. Many of these physical changes, especially those involving hormones and organ scarring, can be permanent. How can we prevent and control them? Adolescence is a vulnerable period where curiosity and social pressure are at their peak. It is much easier to prevent the habit of smoking, drinking, or drug use from starting than it is to treat an addiction later. The foundation of prevention lies in balanced parenting, a mix of high emotional support that is nurturance and a clear, consistent boundaries that is discipline. There are five key strategies for prevention. First is avoid undue peer pressure. Every young person is an individual with their own unique pace and personality. Pushing a child to excel beyond their natural limits, whether in academics or sports, creates stress that often leads to substance use as an escape. So, respect their limits and nurture their specific interests rather than forcing them into a mold. Second is education and counseling. Life is not always a win. We need to teach adolescents how to lose. Young people need to be taught that disappointment and failure are normal parts of life, not reasons to give up. Redirect energy into healthy highs like sports, music, yoga, or reading. These activities provide a natural sense of achievement and stress relief. Third, seek help from family and friends. Silence is the best friend of addiction. Adolescents should be encouraged to talk to parents or trusted friends immediately when they feel overwhelmed. Talking helps vent feelings of anxiety and guilt and preventing these emotions from bottling up and turning into destructive habits. Fourth, watch for danger signs. Prevention requires a neighborhood watch approach. Parents and teachers must stay alert to changes in behavior like drop in grades, isolation, mood swings. If a friend sees someone using drugs, they should not keep it a secret out of loyalty. Telling a responsible adult is the kindest thing they can do to save their friend's future. Fifth, professional and medical help. Sometimes willpower is not enough, and that's okay. There are dedicated professionals like psychologists, psychiatrists, and rehab centers trained to pull people out of the addiction. With professional guidance and a strong personal desire to change, it is entirely possible to overcome addiction and return to a healthy, productive life. Prevention is a team effort. It requires a safe environment where a child feels understood, a community that watches out for them, and the courage to ask for professional help when things get out of hand.